In Los Angeles, the sun was slowly sinking toward the horizon. The streets were both crowded and strangely quiet. People walked briskly, seemingly lost in their own thoughts. Keanu Reeves, in the rare free time between film shoots, had decided to take a solitary walk to escape the fast pace of his life, seeking a moment of solitude with the city. But amidst the urban chaos, a small detail caught his attention. A narrow alleyway with a dusty windowed bookstore. The faded sign above read, "The Forgotten Questions Bookshop." Keanu stopped in front of the store, staring at the sign for a while. He didn't know why, but something about it drew him in. Perhaps curiosity, or maybe the faint hope of finding an answer he didn't even know he was searching for. As he opened the door and stepped inside, the musty scent of the old shelves hit him like a wave of history. But it wasn't the books or the room that caught his eye. It was the young girl seated in a corner, writing in an old, worn notebook. She must have been around 14 or 15. She wrote slowly, pausing frequently, tilting her head as if lost in thought. "Hello," Keanu said gently. "Are you writing something?" The girl flinched slightly, looking up at him shyly, before quickly returning her gaze to the notebook. "Just questions," she murmured, her voice barely louder than a whisper. Keanu leaned against the table, tilting his head curiously. "Questions? What kind of questions?" The girl took a deep breath, but when she looked directly into Keanu's eyes, the maturity in her expression surprised him. "Why is life so hard?" she asked, her voice unexpectedly direct. The question echoed in Keanu's mind. "Life is hard because everything is a struggle, really," he said carefully. "But struggles teach us something. They help us grow." The girl frowned and tilted her head. "But what about people who never win? People who only lose? What's the point of struggling then?" Keanu paused, her heavy words stirring something deep within him. "Sometimes life can be unfair," he admitted. "But that doesn't mean we should give up. Maybe the point is not giving up, even when it's hard." The girl nodded silently, but her expression suggested she wasn't entirely convinced. "I lost my mom," she said abruptly, her voice even quieter. "Everyone keeps telling me I need to be strong. But why do I have to be strong? What's the point of being strong?" Keanu's heart tightened. He thought about the losses in his own life. His mother, his closest friend, his partner. He understood the depths of grief all too well. Taking a deep breath, he looked at her gently. "Being strong." The girl raised her eyebrows slightly. "But what if no one remembers me? What if nothing I do makes a difference?" Keanu was struck by the depth of her thoughts, impressed by her profound outlook. "You know," he said slowly, "I once learned that even a question can make a difference. You don't always need to take big steps to change the world. Sometimes just asking a question can make people think. And that is a big difference." "Really?" she asked skeptically. He smiled. "Really? The questions you've asked me today mean a lot. You've made me think because I haven't asked myself these things in a long time." A faint sparkle appeared in her eyes. "Then, can I ask you one more question?" "Of course. What is the meaning of life?" Keanu remained silent for a moment. He knew there wasn't a definitive answer to the question, but he needed to say something. "The meaning of life," he said slowly, "is to touch the lives of others. To help them, to make a difference. Sometimes, just being there for someone is enough to give life meaning." The girl nodded thoughtfully. Then, she pointed to an old book on the table. "Have you read this book?" Keanu glanced at the cover. "The Lost Answers to Life." Slowly, he picked it up and handed it to her. "This should be yours," he said. "Not just to read, but to one day write your own answers." The girl took the book, looking at him with gratitude in her eyes. "Thank you," she said softly. As Keanu left the bookstore, the sun was nearly set. Inside, he felt a sense of peace he hadn't felt in a long time. The girl's questions had reminded him of a truth he had forgotten, that the meaning of life might not lie in the answers, but in the questions themselves. What he didn't know was that this encounter wouldn't just leave a mark on him. It would ripple far beyond that quiet room. Months later, Keanu was in New York, up early for a film shoot. His schedule was packed, but he decided to step down to the cafe beneath his hotel for a morning coffee. Amid the bustling crowd, he noticed a stranger's gaze fixed on him. A young woman, holding a book in her hands, approached him hesitantly. "Mr. Reeves?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Keanu, assuming it was a fan encounter, smiled politely. But when he noticed the book in her hands, his expression changed. The title read, "A Child's Questions." The woman, seeing his reaction, smiled softly. "Do you recognize this book?" she asked. Keanu nodded slowly. Think I do. Where did you get it?" She ran her fingers gently over the book's cover. "My younger sister wrote it. Her name is Emily. We lost our mother last year and she was going through a really tough time. But one day, she told me she went into a bookstore in Los Angeles and met someone who talked to her about the meaning of life. I think that someone was you." Keanu's eyes filled with emotion. He remembered Emily vividly. Her quiet presence, her profound questions, the trembling hands holding her notebook. "Emily," he murmured. "Yes, I remember her." The woman continued, her voice warm. "That day changed her life. Losing our mom was such a heavy burden for her, but she always described that day as a turning point. She wrote about your conversation and it became this book. Now people are reading her words and finding inspiration." Keanu took the book, flipping through its pages. On the first page, a quote caught his eye. "One day, a stranger talked to me about the meaning of life. That day, I realized that sometimes, a single question can change the world." As he read, a tear slid down his cheek. The woman pulled a letter from her bag and handed it to him. "Emily asked me to give this to you," she said. Keanu opened the letter and read it carefully. "Dear Keanu. The day I met you in the Forgotten Questions bookshop, I felt lost. The book you gave me and the words you shared changed so much. I don't know what my questions meant to you, but your answers set me on a path. I keep asking questions and one day I believe I'll find my own answers. Thank you. With love. Emily. Keanu carefully folded the letter and placed it in his pocket. He turned to the young woman and smiled. "Tell Emily I'm grateful too," he said. The woman nodded, said goodbye, and disappeared into the crowd. Keanu stood there, holding the book for a long time. At that moment, he understood that sometimes, the simplest moments could create the greatest transformations in someone's life. Perhaps Emily's questions hadn't just been about her own journey. They had also helped Keanu find answers he didn't know he needed. That day, Keanu walked on with a deep sense of peace and gratitude. He realized that sometimes a question isn't just a question. It's a bridge that connects people to one another. This brings us to the end of the story. Thank you for watching until the end. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, don't hesitate to like the video and share it with your friends. Subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell.